Today, at long last, we finally got to see the end of the wild ride that has been WandaVision. With a slightly longer runtime than usual and a hell of a lot of story to wrap up, we have been eagerly awaiting this moment. So, let's have a look at what happened. I'm Amy from What Culture, and here's a breakdown of WandaVision Episode 9. We start where we left off before, with Wanda and Agatha in the streets. After Agatha releases the kids to the safety of their house, things start hotting up between Westview's two witches. Agatha informs us that she likes to suck the power from undeserving witches before Wanda swiftly punts her into the next century by hitting her with a car, just moments before White Vision turns up and does the same damage to Wanda herself. Westview Vision appears to start his big battle with his grayscale counterpart, and Monica watches on from Evan Peters' man cave. There we find out that his real name is actually Ralph Boner, and that he's just another schmuck under Agatha's control, the control being done by a little necklace she's charmed and made him wear. In the meantime, Jimmy Woo tells Haywood that he's got backup on the way to bust his ass, and Haywood calls his bluff. I mean, it turns out Jimmy was actually just bluffing, but because he is a living legend, he manages to contact Quantico and pull in a favour for them to arrive within the hour. Back in Westview, Agatha produces the Darkhold and reads to Wanda the segment about the Scarlet Witch, informing her that she possesses more power than the Sorcerer Supreme. Wanda really isn't ready for that conversation yet, so Agatha lifts her mind fog on all the residents of Westview and sends them descending upon to Wanda, begging for either release or death, which is pretty rough. Wanda, unsurprisingly, feels really bad and opens up the hex to free them, at which point Haywood drives forward the troops to enter. White Vision and Westview Vision are still knocking bells out of each other until the latter, and Tommy and Billy, start falling apart because of Westview's hex opening. Oops, didn't think of that one, did you, Wanda? Wanda closes the hex again, and they all have a nice little Incredibles moment before splitting off to tackle different parts of the mess that is Westview. Westview Vision uses logic to defeat White Vision, who then decides his planet needs him and yeets himself into nowhere. Monica gets shot a bunch of times, but it doesn't matter because the bullets can't hurt you when you're a badass, and the kids single-handedly take down the military. You keeping up? Haywood is upset that his bullets didn't work, so jumps to the next logical idea and tries to run Monica over, but he's quickly rammed into a wall by Darcy in a funnel cake van in what is the least badass takedown imaginable, which is exactly what he deserves. Wanda gets all up in Agatha's head and takes her back to the time that her mum and that group of witches tried to kill her, but when all the witches turn on Wanda, she goes Super Saiyan and busts them out of there. Continuing their battle in the sky over Westview, it kind of looks like things are all over for Wanda, as Agatha continues to suck out her power. However, what appears to be Wanda aimlessly shooting at the walls of the hex turns out to be her marking the walls with the very runes we last saw in Agatha's basement, robbing Agatha of her ability to use magic inside the hex. Wanda takes her power back and then some, at the same time reaching her full Scarlet Witch potential and donning the famous outfit we saw some of in the promotional materials. And damn, does she look good! In order to deal with Agatha's meddling, threatening personality, she traps her inside her own head, dooming her to live as nothing more than a nosy neighbour, unable to use magic or cause much harm. Aware now of the damage she's caused, Wanda realises she has to close the hex once and for all, and heads home with her family as the hex walls start closing in. As the walls draw closer, we have a heartfelt goodbye to her kids and Vision, whom she's about to see die for the third time. All said and done, Wanda zooms off into the distance, and Monica is summoned by a scroll on the behalf of a mysterious friend of her mother's, who we do believe to be Nick Fury. In our post-credits scene, not to be confused with the mid-credits scene, we see Wanda having a Thermos moment in the forest somewhere, giving us some serious Doctor Strange vibes even before the camera takes us into a back room where a second, more witchy version of Wanda is hovering in the air and studying the Darkhold, the cries of her children heard faintly in the background. So, where do we even begin? Let's start with Agatha. This episode finally dispelled all those rumours and theories about a rogue Mephisto appearance, showing us that really it was just Agatha all along. She's a jealous, spiteful, and very well-studied witch, but as we now know, she knew that Wanda had more power than the Sorcerer Supreme, so why did she think she had a chance? What's next for Agatha is an interesting question, because it seems that she's doomed to stay in Westview living as a regular citizen and an annoying neighbour. It's interesting to see her role in relation to Wanda be so different from that of the comics though. Where there she's a mentor and a source of knowledge, here she's somewhat of a ward of Wanda's. It may be that sometimes Wanda comes to her for advice or knowledge, but she won't be practicing magic on her own for a long time. It's also worth noting that the book in her basement was confirmed as being the Darkhold, something we were hesitant to believe before given that we had already seen the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, you know, continuity who? I mean, we do know that continuity from that era definitely isn't Marvel's priority, so we shouldn't be too surprised. Next, we need to talk still about Evan Peters' Pietro. It turns out that we didn't get the multiverse promise that we thought was coming, which has definitely rubbed some fans the wrong way. Having Pietro actually just turn out to be a regular Joe being controlled by a charmed necklace was certainly an interesting choice, especially given all the obvious discussion his presence sparked about the multiverse. There is, however, some potential for his presence to actually mean something. There's talk that Ralph Boner may be Jimmy Woo's mysterious man in witness protection. Instead of the headshot being from an acting portfolio or something normal like that, it could be from an information pack from the Witness Protection Program. What exactly this means for Evan Peters' presence in the MCU is unclear, but at least it opens up some potential for his character to mean something and not just be a useless red herring. Next up on the list is WandaVision, because even though he was only around for a subtotal of about 30 seconds before he disappeared, he still has a lot of potential in the MCU. One couldn't help but note the undertones in him and Westview Vision's logic puzzle conversation, in which it seemed they were insinuating they were two parts of a whole. The former is a body without a mind, essentially, and the latter is a mind and a memory without a body. Lots of people were theorising that there is potential for them to come together in some way, and that could still happen. When Wanda speaks to Westview Vision before his third death, being pulled away to nothingness as the hex dissolves, she says that he's the part of the Mind Stone that lives in her. If she were to locate White Vision, could she use her power to infuse him with the classic Vision mojo? Essentially, by that point, she'd have her Vision back. He'd just be in the wrong colour, but, you know, arts and crafts, just put some paint on him. Next up is Monica. What is she going to do next? The world really is Monica's oyster at this point. She's powerful, smart, strong, very experienced in all things wacky and wonderful, and now we think she's been called upon by Nick Fury. With her likely to make an appearance in the upcoming Doctor Strange film and/or Spider-Man, there's a lot of development heading her way. All talk about Monica has been leading us towards recognizing her more as her own character and not some bit of decoration or a throwaway sidekick. With her being summoned by Fury, there's clearly some intention there for her to join in with some of the universe's most serious messes, and we can't say she isn't very qualified for the role. Finally, let's talk about that post-credit scene and what it means going forward. And first and foremost, I just want to say Wanda just needs a break. When she sits there with a little mug at the front, we all thought maybe she was having a holiday and taking a breather to deal with her grief, but no. As we see her in her Doctor Strange-esque pose, studying the Darkhold, our minds are of course drawn to the upcoming Doctor Strange film, in which she plays a huge part. Elizabeth Olsen has said before that WandaVision is essentially a big tee-up to this film, and given that she heard the cries of her children whilst studying the book, we can guess her next arc will be to do with reviving them somehow. Whilst some people have speculated that there is still multiverse potential, with her kids still being alive in another universe which she'll try to reach, the more immediate suggestion is that she's studying the bad book in an attempt to find some magic to revive them. To support this theory, there is also a rumour going round that the actors who play Tommy and Billy are working on the Doctor Strange film too. Even though we haven't had much mention of the comic's powerful elder god Chthon so far, it could be that he appears in the upcoming film in some capacity, as prompted by Wanda's use of the Darkhold. In the comics, he's the one responsible for enhancing her powers, and Doctor Strange enters the equation on the request of Agatha Harkness when she becomes concerned for Wanda and the elder god's influence over her. There's still so much left unclear, but our best guess so far is that Wanda's next adventure will come from her efforts to revive her family, landing her in trouble in one way or another, and we say bring it on. We're gonna wrap it up there for the day, but if you've not had your fill of WandaVision content, then keep an eye out for our upcoming videos. We've got a cheeky ending breakdown with myself and Ewan, and then Ewan will take you through all the Easter eggs spotted in this final episode. In the meantime, remember to check out whatculture.com for everything Marvel related and more. I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.